Tolstoy also explores society's complicity in the individual tragedies, how they feed off each other. He implies that society is corrupt because the individuals are corrupt, and the corrupt society corrupts the individual as he grows up. So there's a vicious cycle with no end. All were happy: plants, birds, insects, and children. But grown up people, adult men and women, never left off cheating and tormenting themselves and one another. It was not the spring morning, which they consider sacred and important, not the beauty of God's world given to all creatures to enjoy, a beauty which inclines the heart to peace and harmony and to love. Children are born innocent, but the suffering adults put them through slowly turns them into adult monsters. Katyusha's 5 siblings, born before her, were baptized and then slowly starved to death. And that would have been her fate if somebody didn't take pity on her and provide her with food. So it is a corrupt society based on hypocrisy that permits, even encourages, and rewards this kind of behavior. But the system is the sum of the individuals within it. Katyusha is judged by popular jurors, and their incompetence reflects her sentence. The question surges: what kind of competence do we have to judge others? Not even moral, but technical. Wouldn't it be better to leave it to the system? Ancient Greeks, Plato, already argued that governing should be left to the individuals prepared for it. Even voting should be done by the people who have enough knowledge to know what they are voting for. As I mentioned before, resurrection is criticism of Russian society, more so of the system controlling it, but the control system is the result of whom the people are. It feeds back to the individuals the product of the ingredients it has been given, so everything is one large mirror. Society reflects individuals in it, and individuals reflect society. All these institutions, prisons, seemed purposely invented for the production of depravity and vice, condensed to such a degree that no other conditions could produce it, and for the spreading of this condensed depravity and vice broadcast among the whole population. Tolstoy is referring to the penal system and the legal system that is driving it, but I think his criticism has a broad coverage: education, politics, etc., and the blame falls on the whole society for ignoring the individual, for creating a system to punish the criminal, but nothing to create conditions that would prevent or discourage committing crimes. When Nekhludoff visits Katyusha in prison, he comes in contact with the variety of people in it, the prisoners and people running it, and also other people associated with the institution, lawyers, judges. Basically, all of Russia's society is represented there, and for the first time he can see the whole problem, its roots. He was horror-struck by what was being revealed to him. He could not understand why he had not been able to see all this before, and why others were unable to see it. The officials who hold the appeal hearing for Katyusha are described, their personalities, and actions that led to the position they occupy. Tolstoy questions their competence to be able to judge actions of another human being and decide her fate, and implies the hypocrisy of the system, even describes the settings of the hearing as somewhat ridiculous, and the officials not really taking the appeal seriously, not really caring about the life of another person. All of it to show how little value lives of the common people had for the upper society. The prosecutor is described as an individual seemingly in his position by accident, just going with the flow, doing things to please others, his peers, and to guarantee himself a comfortable life. He already made his decision before hearing the details, and it is said the decision came not from a reader of Voltaire or Schopenhauer, but rather Hegel. The first two being practical men, critical of religion, men of enlightenment, and Hegel was influenced by the morality of theological teachings, conservative and antiquated. So Tolstoy is being critical of Russia's beliefs and ideas, being outdated and out of place, not being critical of Christian belief. not being critical of Christian beliefs, but rather the ideas created by organized religion to control individuals. Nekhludoff questions the logic behind the judicial and penal system, the motives for its existence. Nekhludoff clearly saw that all these people were arrested, locked up, exiled, not really because they infringed justice or behaved unlawfully, but only because they were an obstacle, hindering the officials and the rich from enjoying the property they had taken away from the people. Sending people to Siberia as punishment to be out of sight and memory, even allowing families to follow the condemned, probably it also served to populate Siberia and make it an inherent part of Russia. Probably the saddest, the most touching part of the book is when Nekhludoff visits one of his properties and sees the slowly dying peasants, especially the children. The bloodless infant, held lightly in her arms, was smiling strangely all over its wizened little face, and continually moved its crooked thumb. Nekhludoff knew the smile to be one of suffering. He observes that children are dying because there is no milk for them, and there is no milk because there is no pasture land for the cows. Instead, the land is used to grow corn, which can be sold abroad, so the landowners can make a profit and buy luxury goods for themselves. The land which should be used to feed the local people is used to make the rich richer. That's why some call Tolstoy a socialist, and Lenin had great respect for him. He didn't agree on the non-violent means, but agreed with the reasons for revolution. Nekhludoff decides to give his land to the peasants, but it is not easy. The peasants don't trust the landowners and think he might be trying to cheat them. They have been conditioned by centuries of abuse and no longer can see or believe in anything good coming from the ruling classes. The novel was written less than 20 years before the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917. There were some reforms implemented before it, but it was too late, and the people just wanted to see blood and have revenge for all the suffering. Perhaps Russian 19th century literature is so great because it exposed the abuses of the upper classes and suffering of the poor, and it laid the foundation for the popular explosions of the 20th century. Tolstoy puts the obvious blame on the Russian system and the people controlling it, but he's also implying the victims might carry some blame for what is being done to them by being too passive and not willing to trust anybody, and it makes them not able to see a good thing when it is offered. Perhaps, using some type of twisted logic, we can come to the conclusion that everybody gets pretty much what they deserve. It sounds cruel and even dangerous, but maybe on the universal level, life is fair. It is for each one to decide for themselves what they believe, because each one has to live with the consequences. To sum it up, Resurrection is a great read, surprisingly easy and pleasant, in spite of the dark and complex reality of the world it takes place in. It seems as at times Tolstoy is holding up a mirror so we can see our own reflection in what he is writing, and that's good literature. I find Resurrection, its argument, a bit similar to Dostoevsky's Idiot, maybe this one more about the system and the other about our inner psychology, but they both deal with trying to feel good about ourselves. The message seems to be we all are looking to get something for ourselves from other people. Initially, Nekhludoff wants forgiveness from Katyusha, and she wonders what she can get out of him. But it seems first we have to accept the pain and to forgive ourselves, and then we can make amends, try to right the wrongs, but it will be limited by what is possible. Nekhludoff wanted to deal with Katyusha, but Katyusha has gone. She became Maslova, the prostitute, and Katyusha can feel that Nekhludoff is looking for somebody who is not there anymore, and that's why she refuses his sacrifice to marry her. There's also the meaning of our lives. We look for it, and once we have it, we don't want to lose it. For Katyusha, the prostitute, it's not Nekhludoff who gives the meaning to her life, but her clients, and she starts to look at him as one of her clients, somebody she can get something tangible, material out of. So in the end, nothing probably will change, but the prince will feel good about himself, and that's the aim all along. The plot reflects Tolstoy's mature philosophy, developed through years of writing, analyzing, and observing society, life lived according to Christian values, which is a general recipe for decent life. There are many faiths, but the Spirit is one, in me and in you and in him, so that if everyone believes himself, all will be united, everyone will be himself, and all will be as one. There are references to Christianity, but in a more abstract sense, as a philosophical ideology defining decent human behavior. Tolstoy was pretty critical of the organized systemic Christianity. The children were eating God's flesh and drinking God's blood. After this, the priest carried the cup back behind the partition and there drank all the remaining blood and ate up the remaining pieces of God's flesh. Described in this way to the outsider, the ritual seems cannibalistic and savage, even satanic. Maybe Tolstoy is trying to show the hypocrisy of organized religions. Maybe that's the most important message of the novel. We all are Christians, and yet we treat each other so badly. There seems to be some Christian metaphors, Katyusha being born in a barn like Jesus, and as Jesus was killed by humanity and became their savior, so is Katyusha metaphorically killed by Nekhludoff when he takes her virginity, and later she becomes his savior. The novel ends with Nekhludoff reading the Bible and as the result of his experiences being able to understand its universal message. To understand it, to understand the whole of the Master's will is not in my power, but to do his will that is written down in my consciousness is in my power. That I know for certain, and when I am fulfilling it, I have sureness and peace. And he comes to the conclusion that man is unhappy when he lives only for himself, and that's what happened to Tolstoy. Over the years he came to the conclusion that one should live simply and be a humble human being and help and care for others. It would make one feel inner satisfaction and it would make the world a better place. And this reflects the mentioned before famous Tolstoy quote, "Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself." The novel supposedly was inspired by a story told to Tolstoy by a friend. It probably is true for some of the actual plot, but the details of the moral crisis and spiritual awakening, I think, are all Tolstoy. There are a few adaptations of the novel. I have seen an Italian miniseries, I think from the 1980s, but the mood was not there. It was a bit too happy for me, maybe because it was Italian. What I really enjoyed was the Soviet film from the 1960s in black and white, and it transmitted so well through the visuals and the actors the somber mood and the sadness of the story. Okay, let's talk about the physical book. The book I am holding is a paperback which I transformed into a hardcover leather-bound edition. To make the cover, I use grade A, naturally tan hide I buy from a tanner in North Spain. It is the same leather Louis Vuitton uses to make his bags, so it is top quality. I do all the processing of the leather myself. First I designed the cover, and for this I used a 19th century painting of a woman looking at her image in the mirror, and in the background there is another female creature, naked. It brings to mind Katyusha seeing herself as an innocent girl and at the same time as the prostitute Maslova. This is the back with the blurb, and inside front cover I printed a quote from the book. If you want to see a more detailed video where I explain how I transform paperback into leather-bound hardcover, click on the link in the description. I will make a maximum of 100 editions of each title. Each one will be numbered and initialed, and the numbers will go in chronological order from 2 up, since number 1 stays with me. The price will be around $100, so if you would like me to make one for you, you can click below on my email and send me a message. I do not guarantee I will do it, since it will depend on the time I have available access to leather and if I can get my hands on the copy of the book. Now, if you're not willing to spend $100, but you still want the book, what you can do is click below on the PayPal link and donate $3 or more to my channel. And for every 100 donations, I will make a lottery and draw one name, and the winner will receive the book. So if you're cheap but feel lucky, this might be the way to do it. Also, your donations give me the extra motivation to make the book reviews, and I appreciate them very much, so thank you in advance. One more thing, when you make your donation, remember to include the title of the book you would like to win. The book itself is beautiful. Visually, it has a very nice texture, it smells great, and the more you handle it, the more beautiful it will become. And it makes a great gift for yourself or somebody who appreciates books. So if you want one, don't snooze or you might lose. Well, that's it, so let's end it here. And until next time, keep your ear close to the ground and read a book. Adios.